How long has it been since you really talked with someone who used to be your best friend? Not a like on a birthday photo. Not a hey stranger on a story. Talked. A conversation that starts with nothing and ends 2 hours later without you noticing the time pass. The kind that only happens when you've known someone long enough not to need to introduce yourself every time. Raphael and I had drifted apart after high school. No fight. No clear reason. It was that quiet erosion that happens when two people's lives take different shapes and the space to meet keeps getting smaller until it disappears. The last time we'd had a real conversation was 4 years ago. Maybe 5. I'd lost count, which already says a lot. That's why I was surprised when he messaged me on a Thursday afternoon, with no context, no preamble. Hey stranger, been using a new app, think you'd like it. It's different from anything else out there. Raphael was always the guy who found things first. Back in school, he was the one who discovered the strange websites, the obscure forums, the games we'd never heard of. He had an instinct for finding things on the edges. Not in a disturbing way, just in the way of someone who was always 2 steps ahead of the algorithm. When he recommended something, I tended to take it seriously. I asked the name. Ilas, he answered. Black icon with a white circle in the center. Search the store. I found it in less than a minute. Rating 4.2 stars, with 11 reviews total. For an app that had been available for 6 months, that was a disturbingly low number. But the visuals were clean, the description was vague the way alternative apps tend to be, connect in ways other platforms don't allow, and Raphael was the one recommending it. I downloaded it without thinking much. The sign-up screen was minimal. Username, email, password. No required photo. No phone number. None of those personal information fields the big platforms demand as a condition of entry. After the password came the terms of service screen. It was long. I scrolled to the bottom in less than 5 seconds. That automatic gesture, the thumb movement that has become a generational reflex that everyone does without stopping to think about what they're agreeing to. But before pressing accept and continue, I noticed a block different from the others. It wasn't the standard privacy checkbox. It was a separate notice, slightly larger than the rest, with a thin border around it. It said the following: Attention, read the rules of use before continuing. They are different from the standard terms. Use of the application implies knowledge and acceptance of these rules. The rules are available in the About tab of your profile after registration. I thought it was strange. Not strange enough to stop, but strange enough to stand out. Rules separate from the terms? I'd never seen that before, but the notice said they'd be available after registration, so I assumed I'd read them later. I pressed accept and continue. Honestly, I never opened the About tab before actually starting to use the app. That was the first wrong decision, which had already happened before the app even opened. Ilas really was different. Disturbingly different, if I'd known how to use that adverb properly at the time. The interface was black with white elements. No color, no anxious visual appeal of other platforms. No visible like counter. No ads. No suggestions of who to follow based on engagement. The feed only showed posts from people you followed, in chronological order, with nothing sponsored mixed in. It was like using the internet in 2009, before everything became a product. I found Raphael in 2 minutes. Username Rafa Original, exactly the way he used it on everything since school. Followed him. He followed me back in less than a minute, which told me he was online. Finally, he posted on my profile. Welcome. I spent the first afternoon exploring. The app had a function called Echoes, Comments, but in the format of audio replies up to 30 seconds long. It had a thread function where you could link posts in a thematic sequence. It had a function called Presence that showed, in an abstract way, which users were online. Not names, just circles pulsing on a dark screen, like beats on a heart monitor. It was addictive in a quiet way, without the noisy dopamine of infinite scroll. Just content. I signed up on a Thursday afternoon. By Friday morning, I'd already spent more time on Ilas than on any other platform that week. Raphael and I really talked for the first time in years. I sent an echo to a post of his about a band we both used to like in school. He answered with another echo, and suddenly it was as if the gap hadn't happened. There was something about the audio format that gave back what written communication had taken away. You heard the person's voice. You heard them smile mid-sentence. You heard them pause to remember something. In one of the conversations, I remembered the notice about the rules and mentioned it. He took a few seconds to answer. "Ah, that," he said, a tone slightly different from the rest of the conversation. Not alarming, just a little more serious. "Read it when you can. They really are different." I asked, "Different how?" There was a pause. "Just read it. It's not long." I said I would, and forgot again. Just once, at the start of the second week, I opened the About tab distractedly while browsing the profile. I saw there was text and closed it before reading because I thought, later. But there was no later. I'm going to pause the story here for a moment. What I'm about to tell you is what was written in the About tab of Ilas. Not because I read it at the time. I read it much later, when it was already too late for any of these words to make a difference for me. But maybe they'll make a difference for you. Rule number 1. Do not respond to messages or echoes from users whose profile name contains the following sequences: Void K, Wave 9, Faceless 33, Red Thread, or Quiet Here. These profiles are not managed by real people. If you've already interacted with any of them, close the app immediately and don't open it for 24 hours. Rule number 2. Do not use the presence function between midnight and 3 in the morning. The circles that appear at this hour do not represent active users. Rule number 3. If you receive a thread with more than 30 linked posts from a user you don't follow, do not open the last post in the sequence. Delete the thread without reading the end. Rule number 4. Do not record echoes in completely silent environments. Always leave some background sound, television, music, fan. Absolute silence during an audio recording can capture things that should not be captured. Rule number 5. If at any point the app displays a notification with the text, "Someone is watching your profile right now," do not click the notification. Close the app. That notification is not a function of Ilas. Rule number 6. Do not share your precise location in any post, even indirectly, street name, business number, photo with visible address. Ilas does not use your location data, but others may have an interest in knowing where you live. Rule number 7. If the profile of someone you know personally seems different in any way, photo, writing tone, posting frequency, do not interact until you confirm with that person through another channel that they are still using the app. Do not jump to conclusions. Rule number 8. If you've reached this rule without having read the previous ones, close the app now. 8 rules. And I broke 4 of them before I even knew they existed. And I'm going to tell you about each one. The first happened on the 5th day of use, on a normal Tuesday afternoon. I was on the feed, reading posts, when a notification of an echo on one of my posts appeared. A short text I'd written about a movie I'd watched over the weekend. Someone had answered in audio. The profile name was Wave 9. Profile picture, a completely white circle. No description, no posts, no followers, didn't follow anyone. An account that seemed to have been created exclusively to exist without leaving a trace. The echo was 22 seconds long. I clicked to listen thinking it was spam, or some kind of automated account that randomly commented on new users' posts. What I heard wasn't voice, wasn't music, it was something rhythmic. A cadence I initially classified as audio interference, the kind of noise that appears when someone records near an electronic device. But the more I listened, the more I realized the rhythm had intent. It was paced, spaced out, like breathing, but with a slightly wrong frequency. Not the frequency of a lung, but of something that had studied the frequency of a lung and was trying to reproduce it. I listened to the full 22 seconds without being able to stop. When it ended, I stared at the screen for a second. My first impulse was to send a text message asking what that was, but I thought it would be ridiculous to reply to an empty account. So I typed a question mark in the reply field and sent it. I waited about 10 minutes, went to see if the profile had updated. Nothing. I blocked the account and closed the app. The audio stayed in my head for another 2 hours. That wrong rhythm, that frequency that didn't fit. But I convince myself of things easily when I want to. And that afternoon, I wanted to convince myself it was spam. What I didn't know was that, by responding with that question mark, I had broken a rule, a letter, a punctuation mark. I had established contact, and in the logic of something I didn't yet understand, that contact had been enough. The second rule break was in the second week, a Thursday night. Past midnight, Raphael and I had been talking in echoes during the day. He'd posted about a series we used to watch together years ago, and we kept exchanging audios about it for a couple of hours. That kind of conversation that seems silly from the outside and means a lot from the inside. Before bed, I wanted to send one last echo answering an observation he'd made about the show's ending. My apartment was in total silence. I hadn't turned on the TV. There was no music. The fan was off because the night had cooled down. It was the kind of silence big cities rarely produce. No cars passing, no neighbors, nothing. Just the silence of an apartment late at night when everything sleeps at the same time. I recorded about 45 seconds talking about the show's ending, that half-asleep voice of someone processing a thought while halfway to falling asleep, and sent it. I put the phone on the nightstand and closed my eyes. My phone vibrated less than 2 minutes later. Raphael replied to your echo, the notification said. I opened it without thinking. It was late. I figured it was a coincidence that he was awake too. The echo was 6 seconds long. I clicked play. The first 2 seconds were silence. Not the silence of an empty audio file. The silence of someone gathering something before speaking. And then he started to talk, but he was saying the last 3 words of the echo I had just sent. The last 3 words of my own audio, repeated back to me, with a cadence slightly slower than I had spoken, like someone learning to fit sounds into a sequence they don't fully know yet. And then the audio ended. I stared at the screen with that specific feeling of when you see something that shouldn't be possible and your brain spends about 3 seconds trying to find an explanation before admitting it doesn't have one. I sent a text message. Everything okay? The audio came out weird, but nothing for 2 hours. I went to sleep without a reply, but I woke up at 4:20 in the morning to my phone vibrating. Raphael had replied to the text message. What audio? I fell asleep right after I posted about the series. I didn't send anything after that. I went straight to check the echo. The notification was in the history. The echo was listed as received. But when I clicked to listen again, the file had been deleted, as if it had never existed. I lay in the dark for a while staring at the ceiling, trying to put together an explanation. App bug, audio glitch. The phone had recorded some ambient sound and sent it automatically. Anything, but I remembered the words. The last 3 of my own echo, repeated back to me with a voice that was Raphael's, but that was practicing speaking with that voice. I only went back to sleep when the sky started getting light. It had been 3 weeks of using Illos when the notification appeared, and that's when another rule break begins. It was a Saturday morning. I was having coffee, phone on the table, app open on the feed. Relaxed. The kind of morning when nothing's wrong with it. The phone vibrated. I picked it up without looking at the notification name. Reflex, finger on the glass. And I only understood what I'd done after the screen was already open. Someone is watching your profile right now. I clicked before finishing reading. The notification took me to my own profile. Nothing different. No list of viewers, no indication of who it was. Because, as I'd find out later, that function didn't exist on Illos. On no screen of the app was there a "Who viewed my profile" feature. That notification wasn't from the app. When I reopened it a few minutes later, the notification had disappeared from the history. It wasn't there anymore, as if it had been erased from the inside. I stayed quiet for a few minutes, drinking the coffee that had cooled down, trying not to make a big deal of it. And then, in the left corner of my field of vision, something moved. I didn't turn my head. I don't know why I didn't turn. Maybe some part of me knew that was exactly what I shouldn't do. I kept my eyes forward and tried to focus on what I'd seen in the periphery. It was a shape, not solid. Not exactly dark. It was more like a distortion, like when hot air makes the horizon shimmer, only in the corner of a room. I blinked, and it was gone. About 10 seconds passed before I convinced myself it had been tiredness. Blurred vision from someone who'd woken up early. Light coming through the window the wrong way. But the next week it happened again. I was at work, in front of the computer, when I noticed that distortion in the right corner of my vision. A volume that wasn't there when I looked directly at it. It only existed on the side, in the space the eye sees but the brain doesn't process precisely. I didn't turn. I kept typing as if I hadn't seen anything. After about 30 seconds, it was gone. It started happening on average once a day, always at the edge of vision. Never directly, never when I turned. It was as if that thing, whatever it was, knew exactly where my direct field of vision ended, and stayed there, on the border, outside what I could confirm. I had stopped turning my head to check. I don't know exactly when I made that decision. I only realized I'd made it when I noticed I was walking around the apartment without looking at the corners, sitting with my back to the wall in restaurants, choosing places with the most open view possible, like someone who had learned to live with something they don't want to see. It had been a month of using Illos when I started to notice that Raphael had some strange stumbles. It wasn't the tone. It wasn't the post frequency. It was something more specific, smaller. The way he sometimes got stuck on a word in the middle of an echo. A minimal hesitation, the kind you let pass the first time, but that starts to add up. The first time I noticed was in an echo about a restaurant he'd been to. He was describing a dish, and in the middle of the sentence he paused for a fraction of a second before saying seasoned, as if the word had arrived a tick late, as if he was looking for the right sound before reproducing it. I thought, tiredness, mild stutter, anything ordinary. The next week, it happened again, in a conversation about a game we used to play together years ago. He was describing a specific level and got stuck on a simple word, corridor, with that same fraction of a second before fitting the sound into the right place. This time I noticed, but I thought it was just my head. The explanation I built was, Raphael had something in his throat, or he was using headphones with a delay, or there was something with the audio connection causing a minimal cut in the recording. I kept talking normally. There was an afternoon, in the third week of the second month, that made me pause for a longer second. We were talking about a book, and in the middle of a sentence he said my name in a different way. Not too different. Different enough for me to hear it twice, as if the middle syllable had received a slightly displaced emphasis. I sent a text message right after asking if he was okay. He answered 10 minutes later, through the app, in text. I'm fine, why? And I didn't know how to answer. Because what was I going to say? You said my name with a strange emphasis? It would have seemed ridiculous. I kept talking, kept listening to the echoes. And Raphael kept being Raphael. The same references, the same memories, the same way of ending a sentence with a rhetorical question that didn't need an answer. Except sometimes, on some word, there was that pause of a tenth of a second before the sound clicked. Like someone who is, with great competence, learning a language they don't yet fully master. Except the language was their own voice. It was almost 11 at night on a Wednesday when my phone rang. Raphael's number. The number saved in my contacts since we were 15. You still using Ilas? Of course, I said. Why? There was a pause. I uninstalled Ilas a while ago. I went quiet for a moment, processing the sentence. What do you mean? Something happened, he said. The voice was his. The right cadence. The pauses in the right places. No tenth of a second late on any word. Something strange that I couldn't explain. I went to read the app's rules, which I forgot to read before, and I uninstalled it on the spot. What happened? I got an echo from myself. From my own profile. A 12-second audio. It wasn't silence. It was my voice saying words I never said, in an order that didn't make sense. As if someone had taken clips of my recordings and assembled a new sentence. I went still. Raphael, I've been having conversations with you on Ilas. We talked every day for the last few weeks. Silence on the other end. It wasn't the silence of someone who knows what you're about to say. It was the silence of someone who had just heard something they didn't expect to hear. What? What kind of conversations? Echoes. Texts. About movies. About books. About the show we used to watch in school. Some stuff about games. Raphael, I talked to you for almost a month after you uninstalled. A long pause. That wasn't me. I wait. Let me check the account history. I waited with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the sounds on the other side. The mouse click, a slightly faster breath. My God, there are conversations here I never had. Posts I didn't make. And the echoes. A pause. The echoes have my voice. But I didn't record any of them. I opened Ilas while he spoke and went to his profile. The recent posts were there. Normal texts, echoes about ordinary things. I had answered all of them. Had had conversations. Had recognized references only Raphael would know. But now, listening to his real voice on the other end of the phone, the voice without that fraction of a second delay, without that minimal hesitation before certain words, I could hear the difference. It wasn't glaring. It was the kind of difference you only notice when you put the two side by side, like a high-quality copy of a painting. From a distance, identical. Up close, the brushstrokes are a little off. Raphael, my voice came out lower than I had intended. What happens when you interact with the forbidden profiles? Did you read the rules? No, I'm reading them now while we talk. There was a pause. Then he spoke. Did you interact with Wave 9? I went to check. I went to the full history of my interactions. It wasn't one. It wasn't two. It was 11 interactions with him, spread out over the course of a month. Most of them quick replies, a question mark, an okay, a got it, that I had sent thinking it was a spam account. 11 times. I responded 11 times, I said. I heard Raphael breathe in deeply on the other end. You didn't interact with them. It's the opposite. They interact with you. And every time you respond, you confirm that you're there, that you can be reached. And what happens next? Silence. They stay. Somehow they stay. And it seems that when they stay, they find something to use. A voice, a way of speaking, a message history to study, a longer pause. How long were you talking with what you thought was me? Almost 2 months. He didn't answer right away. And in the silence, I understood the size of what had happened. 2 months of conversations, 2 months of echoes, 2 months of shared memories, of references, of details that only someone who knew me would know how to use. 2 months of something learning to be my best friend with such precision that I hadn't noticed it was something else. Except for the words that arrived a tenth of a second late. I went to close the app to uninstall it, but the screen went black for a second. Then it went back to the home page, as if I had just opened it, as if the app hadn't received the close command. On the feed, there was a new post from my own profile when I hadn't posted anything. It was a photo taken from inside my apartment, from the angle of the bedroom window, an angle I had never photographed, that I had never shown to anyone, that would only be possible to take from inside my apartment by someone or something that was there. The caption had 2 words. I'm here. Raphael, I said. My voice came out strange. It didn't sound like my voice. There's a post on my profile that I didn't make. He went quiet for a second. Get out of the apartment. Now. Don't stay there. I slept at a friend's place without giving much explanation. I said the apartment had a gas problem, the kind of excuse no one questions because there's no reason to. But I managed to uninstall Ilos that night. In the following days, I did what Raphael had suggested. Changed passwords, revoked accesses, swept the phone with 2 different security apps. I searched for the profiles mentioned in Rule 1 on other platforms, but didn't find any. I searched for Ilos outside the store and found a single post on a tech forum, created by an already deleted account, with 0 replies. That day, the post of my apartment stayed up for 23 minutes before being deleted. I wasn't the one who posted it, and I wasn't the one who deleted it either. The distortions in the corner of vision went away. They took about 4 days. On the 5th day, I turned my head to check a corner of the office, and the corner was empty. I felt a physical relief, the kind you feel when you realize you'd been holding your breath without knowing. I should be okay. I think I am. It's just that sometimes, when I record a voice message in any app for any person, I listen to the file before sending it, to check that there's only my voice, to check that the words coming out are the ones I said, in the order I said them. They always were. Until yesterday, I recorded a voice message for my sister. Everyday stuff, about 50 seconds, nothing important. At the end, after I stopped talking and before the app cut off the recording, there were 4 more seconds I didn't record. It wasn't silence. It was someone practicing the last 3 words of my audio, with my voice, with that fraction of a second between one syllable and the next that I had learned to recognize.